Today's the 6th. It's June 6th, and the Platting Board will come to order. It's 6:30 p.m. May we have roll call, please?
Dan Young.
Present.
Christina Enix.
Present.
John Porter.
Present.
Kevin Cross.
Present.
Mark Seward.
Present.
Valerie Ritz.
Present.
Jana Welton.
Present.
Becky Lipson and Clayton Walker have been excused. Thank you.
Thank you. The first item on the business is action summaries from Wednesday, May 2nd, 2018, and we have a revised copy. May I have a motion to accept the action summaries, please? Kevin Cross makes the motion. Don Porter is going to second the motion. Would you, Mr. Cross, would you speak to your motion?
Yes, move to approve the action summary for May 2nd, 2018.
Thank you. Is there any opposition or any discussion? Mr. Seward.
On the summary of action on case S12405, I recuse myself from that as I was the petitioner's representative, so I would be abstaining from that case alone.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Is there any opposition to the motion? Hearing and seeing none, the motion passes. And the summary of action is approved. Next item is minutes from May 2nd, 2014. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Porter and Mr. Cross is going to second. Mr. Porter, would you speak to your motion, please?
Yes, I move to approve the draft minutes for May 2nd, 2018.
Thank you. Are there any comments? Any opposition? The minutes are now approved. We have summary of action. Are there any comments on the summary of action? Right. Next item is special order of business is disclosures. Do we have any disclosures this evening? In that case, I'll go. In the matter of case S12408, the U-Haul Diamond Subdivision, I have a disclosure that I have worked for the petitioner's representative in the past, and I've worked on projects, my firm has worked on projects with the petitioner's representative. I have no interest, financial or other interest in this project tonight, and I have no information about it. I could be fair in my judgment about this case. May I have a motion directing me to participate? Mr. Porter and Mr. Cross seconds. Mr. Porter, will you speak to your motion, please?
Yes, in case S12408, I move to direct Mr. Dan Young to participate in the case. He has stated that he has no financial interest in the case, even though he has worked for the petitioner's representative before, and he can make an impartial decision.
Are there any discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Hearing and seeing none, I am directed to participate. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consent agenda. We don't have one tonight. And then old business. We don't have any old business tonight. And before we start the public hearing, the procedure by which the public may speak to the Platting Board at this meeting is after the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, the chair, that would be me, will ask for public testimony on the issue. Persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Commission Rules of Procedure. Petitioners, including his or her representatives, have 10 minutes. Part of this time may be reserved for rebuttal And I want to add that if you don't reserve part of your time and you have time left over, it's still yours to use for rebuttal. So it's up to you if you want to specifically reserve. Representatives of groups, community councils, PTA, et cetera, have 5 minutes, and individuals have 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the board. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the board. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Platting Board takes. Appeal of this decision or any of the conditions is governed by AMC 21.11.304. The decision of the board at the scheduled public hearing shall become final 7 calendar days after the date the decision is made on the record unless a written request is submitted to the Planning Division prior to the expiration of the 7th day to prepare a written decision based upon the record made at the hearing, and the request is accompanied by a written notice of intent to appeal. Adoption of the written decision by the Platting Board becomes the final appealable decision. Within 20 days of the final appealable decision, an interested party must file with the municipal clerk either A, a written motion alleging new evidence or changed circumstances per AMC 21.11.503, or B, an appeal of the board's final appealable decision per AMC 21.30. Those are our rules. First item for new business is case S12406, 08, U-Haul Diamond Subdivision Lot 1, Tract A. May we have staff's presentation, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request to subdivide 3 lots into 1 lot and 1 tract with vacation of a 46-foot sanitary sewer, water, storm drain, and access easement. The proposed replat eliminates the need for the easements as it will be 1 lot with access from Diamond Boulevard. This request is being made to consolidate the lots and utilize the subject parcel for future development to include setting aside a tract for contaminated soil mitigation. The petition site is located along Diamond Boulevard, 1 block east of the Diamond and Jewel Lake intersection. The property is currently vacant. West Diamond Boulevard appears to be improved to municipal standards for a Class 3A arterial with the exception of separated pedestrian facilities. The preliminary plat appears to generally conform to the goals and policies of the Anchorage 2040 Land Use Plan and Anchorage Bowl Comprehensive Plan 2020. Specifically, the parcel conforms to land use policies 6.1, sufficient transportation infrastructure, and 6.3, adapt and execute complete streets policy to design streets of the Anchorage 2040 Land Use Plan. The petitioner is proposing to vacate a 46-foot sanitary sewer, water, storm drain, and the access easement. They want to vacate that in order for future development of the lot. So private development, right-of-way, and the municipal traffic department stated there is no objection to the vacation of the access easement. Anchorage Water and Wastewater Utility has stated there's no objection to the vacation of the sanitary sewer and water easement. So generally, reviewing agencies had either no comment or no objection to the vacation request. Tract A is set aside for environmental contamination, so therefore staff believes that the sanitary sewer, water, storm drain, and access easement is in excess of municipal need and recommends approval of this vacation subject to the conditions. The planning department staff also recommends approval of the subdivision plat as it's presented. So there'll be 2 motions there, the A and the B. So planning recommends approval of A, the request for vacation of the 46-foot wide sewer storm drain access easement, and also B, 1 through, found on page 7 and 8, with 1 minor amendment. That's B2, which reads, dedicate an additional 15 feet of right-of-way along Diamond Boulevard to total 65 feet of right-of-way from the center line. Planning staff is recommending striking condition 2 from the conditions. What we currently have in the preliminary plat is there's a development setback of 65 feet from the center line, and per the previous plat, we've already captured the 35 feet of right-of-way for Diamond Boulevard. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, and the petitioner's representative is here as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff? Mr. Porter?
Yes, through the chair, I wonder if you could clarify that you would delete recommendation B2?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of staff at this time? With that, we open the public hearing. May we have the presenter state your name, spell your last name, please.
Good evening. My name is Tim Potter with Dow Engineers.
Mr.
Last
Potter,
name spelled Potter.
I'm sorry, Mr. Potter, would you like to reserve any time for rebuttal?
At least 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay.
Yes, as Sean has indicated, that this is a fairly straightforward consolidation of existing lots that were created associated with a previous development plan, not by this owner. With me tonight is John Norris, representative of U-Haul and the current owner of the property that is bringing forward a project at this time. So this will allow vacation of utility and an access easement that basically infiltrated a good portion of the center of the site based on a previous plan that resulted in a large flag lot and then 2 lots next to it. It was necessary to get utilities and access to all 3 parcels, especially the one furthest to the north. By consolidating and replatting the lots into a single large lot and a tract to set aside the contaminated portion of the site, which allows some clarity in financing issues and restrictions. This allows a much more efficient and developable piece of land to work with from a design and development standpoint. We would agree with all of the recommended conditions as put forward by the staff. Appreciate the deletion of the recommendation to delete condition number 2. B2 is actually in excess of what the code would allow the municipality and the Platting Board to require. There is a 50-foot wide BLM section line easement from the center line, 100-foot wide there now. The OSHP calls for 130 feet total. In this case, there's 50 feet from the center line. The additional 15 feet is already established from a 2007 plat that was done for development setback. That will protect both DOT and the public's interest so that if and when Diamond Boulevard gets expanded, the public will not be purchasing required parking or a building or portions of a building supported by that required parking. And that has been the way that the community has done this since about 1985. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Please.
Thank you. You have 7 minutes and 30 seconds for rebuttal. Do we have any questions for Mr. Potter?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public wishing to testify tonight?
My name is Stanley Bronzik, spelled Bronczzyk. I'm a homeowner in the area. In fact, my lot is Lot 8, which abuts the which is the longest running area adjoining the area that Mr. Norris wants to build on. Anyway, what I'm concerned with is that he's planning on removing some trees along our lot line. And the problem there is that we also have an electrical line that runs right along our lot line too. If he pulls the trees out, I'm afraid that it'll disrupt our electricity. Anyway, so we have three of the largest trees on along the area is right adjoining the land, and so I'm concerned that if he pulls them out, the root system will disrupt our electricity. So what happens is he has to have somebody from the municipality come out, from the power company come out, and he needs to call 811, and they would come out and mark where electrical lines are that he'd have to watch out for. Also, John took 90 truckloads of snow off of the land this last winter. And I really appreciate his doing that because it prevented my basement from being flooded. The way it was now is that the sump pump that I have is about 6 feet below the wire line that is runs in our affectionately known lake as Mallard Pond. Anyway, let's see, 90 truckloads of snow, and that kept my sump pump from running consistently, and it got to within 6 inches of our floor before the sump pump stopped the water from coming up anymore. But if he hadn't taken the snow off, it would have definitely flooded my basement. So I don't know what the plans look like, but he definitely needs to put in a drainage ditch in the area or a culvert that would take the water away. Also, my sump pump drains into the city's sewer system, and I know that's against the rules now, but I guess I'm grandfathered in. Anyway, and any water that he contributes to the system would cause the city sewer system to take on more water.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Thank you very much. Mr. Cross has a question. And Mr. Porter, did you have one?
Excuse me,
wait,
sir.
Sir?
Before you depart, over here on the end.
Yes.
So just to clarify, your concerns are drainage along the back of your property as well as a greenery buffer in the trees around the power lines. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Any other than drainage and what do we have here? It's a storm easement, drainage easement, and I think there was a
Your microphone is-
landscaping buffer. Were there any other concerns regarding the separation?
No, I don't think so.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Never done this before. My name's Frank Pinchback. Last name is Pinchbeck. I'm in Lot 1, R1, which is actually right on the corner of Diamond and Noble Circle. My concerns are also with taking out all the trees and everything and putting the drainage in. That would be great, but there has to be, because that's a green belt, I would think someone that would put more trees back in its place, at least 10, 15 feet taller, or, you know, to replace the ones they're taking out. Also, when they clear that out, that's a walking path. That's a walking path from people coming from Diamond. They walk down between the two properties and then walk over into the low-income housing apartments, which are over on 88th. That's my concern. That is a pretty big concern about that. Other than that, I don't know what kind of fences they're putting up for property. Someone was saying they were offering to put fences on our side for us all the way down, but I would have to be a fence that's tall enough, at least 10, 12 feet, something that's going to last for a long time. Also, the people that are actually trying to do all the property on their, make it one lot, they need to have some kind of privacy fence, because I don't want to be looking at vehicles and people coming back and forth and all this noise, because the trees protect the sound. We don't get a lot of sound. Just recently my fence blew down, but now I'm getting it and I've got dogs. So that's basically the concerns that I have. Anybody have any questions? Or?
Thank you. Are there any questions? None? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On that note of people walking down through there, I wouldn't be opposed if they put.
Use the microphone, please.
I'm sorry. I just had one more thing. With people walking through there, I wouldn't be opposed if there was some kind of fence to block it off so people cannot just use it for a walking path. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to testify? This is going to be your last chance. Anyone wishing to testify? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Potter, would you like to use your 7 minutes and 30 seconds for a rebuttal?
Absolutely. For the record, again, Tim Potter. The two speakers discussed issues that I know John's been talking about with the neighbors, and that we've certainly been working on from a site design standpoint. There's a long ways to go. We'll be going through a rezone process as well, likely having a site plan review. And a lot of those details will be worked out at that time. But what I can tell you is that the current grading plan that has been submitted and reviewed and approved by the city has the site tipped to the west. So from most of the fill on the newly paved surface and the pad that's there now will actually tip away from and intercept the water in a ditch and a holding area and take it out to the storm drain system in Diamond. So all but about 30 feet of the site, and that would be the east side of the site, which will go from the top edge of this intercept ditch and storm drain system down to the current property line, because most of the adjacent property on Noble Circle lies below or down elevation from what the pad is on this site. There would be a fence. We've been discussing the type of landscaping that would be put in as well, and potentially not just having a fence, a replacement fence on the property line, but also having an internal screening fence closer into the top of the pad, so that there would be another break. So there would be a fence, landscaping, and then potentially another screening fence on it, because we're pretty sensitive about that situation right now. And because it's elevated, it's both good and bad. The issue as far as transient homeless use of that area and going through it, there is maybe not a significant use compared to other parts of town, but there is a use of that area. And John is very sensitive to that, and we're looking at making sure that the fence along the Noble Circle property also takes a 90 along what would be the north end of this site, where the storage yard is to the north, as well as hook around the corner down on Diamond. So there would be a physical barrier for people using that area that's on a slope as an open walkway through our landscaping area. So as this project progresses, we'll continue to refine that plan, but that's the intent at this time. So all but about 30 feet of the site will be intercepted from a storm drain standpoint and pick up that drainage and get it off site before it has any chance to go to the east towards the Noble Circle property. So.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Mr. Potter, the petitioner's presenter? Jana Wilson.
Thanks. Thanks for addressing those issues. What about pulling up the trees and the roots? I'm sure you're going to have somebody come out and handle that very professionally and look at the.
It's a really interesting property. We'll have a storm drainage system that is really up on the pad to intercept water before it goes over the edge towards the Noble Circle property. There's an existing storm drain easement down between that and about 10 feet away from the existing fence line. The vegetation will be ultimately removed, that storm drain system put in, and then trees replaced. So when the vegetation is taken out, that will disrupt the current roots that are there and eliminate that vegetation. And then when the vegetation is planted, most of the trees that would be planted in vegetation don't have deep tap roots. They'd be very surface oriented and should not be a problem for power or any storm drainage. But there is historically an issue with the water table and drainage, and John did remove snow from the site pre-spring melt to eliminate that water. That would have been melt water down onto the neighbors. So he is very sensitive to that.
Yeah, and I saw that snow issue raised in the Sand Lake Community Council report. Is that going to be something you'll continue to do to handle that snow issue?
When there's likely not going to be any area for long-term snow storage on the site, so it will be probably contracted and hauled off-site. In this case, it was through the winter, the snow accumulated. They had just started on the site work last fall, and with that much snow, 2 to 3 feet sitting there, when it melted, it was going to head where it always goes, and that's downhill. We haven't figured out how to cheat gravity yet. And at that point, John took the snow off. It will be paved now, except for the eastern 30 feet, and that snow will be plowed and removed from the site. So it will be intercepted, and none of the snow from the pad will be adding additional water. So there'll be a significant decrease in the amount of runoff coming from that site into the groundwater or even over land to that property to the east.
Okay, great. And then, Sean, this is a question for you. If there's not enough room on this site for required snow storage, are they going to have to enter into a snow removal agreement and have that recorded, just for the public's benefit of knowing?
Through the chair, Ms. Wilson, yes, that is correct.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Prado.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Porter.
Yes, through the chair, question for you. These 10-foot storm drain easement, which is in between the T&E easement and the landscaping easement, did you indicate that they're going to actually remove the vegetation and then actually put an underground storm drain system in that 10-foot easement?
Yeah, John. Yeah, up here at the microphone.
Yeah, that is correct. Sir, my name's John Norris, Norris. And yes, we have a storm drain system. The first step, we just had fill and grade approved just the other day. And the first step is actually to put a temporary swell to prevent any water from going down the side of the hill into any of the neighbors' properties here. And that's the very first part of the business. And then after that, there is a storm drain that actually is put into there that has been approved, that is meets all the requirements for going into the main septic system onto the highway. It limits the water that goes into it. So there's actually a storm drain that does go in that system. That was part of, Tim, maybe I didn't update you all the way, but that was for part of the snow removal. We will actually have some snow storage in that area, and that we actually putting a drain system in there to accommodate that.
Great. So will any of the lots be connected into that storm drain system to alleviate any of the sump issues that the residents are complaining about?
That's really the main reason for that whole drain system there, is so that none of the water, even the water that comes down from the north, I'm trying to eliminate that for them because it looks like it's been going on for many, many years in that area. So we're trying to size it so that it actually takes care of. There's another neighbor just to the north, a storage facility there. And that water, they put large piles of snow, giant piles of snow in there. And that's really where most of the water is really coming from. So I'm trying to put a system in there that does take care of the whole area.
Excellent. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions of the petitioner or staff? Hearing and seeing none, the public hearing portion of this meeting is closed. He's already testified. And the matter now rests with the board. In the case of S12408, may I have a positive motion to approve the request for vacation of the 46-foot wide sanitary sewer? Mr. Porter. Mr. Porter, would you, for the record, state your motion and then speak to your motion?
Yes, in the case of S12408, U-Haul Diamond Subdivision, I move for approval of the request of vacation of a 46-foot wide sanitary sewer, water, storm drain, and access easement dedicated by Plat 2007-61, subject to the one requirement for recording in 24 months.
Thank you. And Mr. Cross seconds. Mr. Porter, would you speak to your motion, please?
Yes, through the testimony that we've heard, the petitioner is going through other processes for rezoning, as well as reconfiguring this lot to the owner's uses, which would make the 46 wide sanitary sewer easements and other easements of no use, so that they can develop the property in a manner that is efficient for the owner. And I agree with the reasoning and the staff presentation for staff analysis for the vacation of the easement.
Thank you. And Mr. Cross.
Yes, and regards to approval of the request for the vacation of the 46-foot wide sanitary sewer, water, storm drain, and access easement dedicated by Plat 207-61, I want to make sure it's noted that private development right-of-way, the municipality traffic department has all stated that they have no objection to the vacation. Additionally, Anchorage Water and Wastewater Utility has stated there was no objection to the vacation of the sanitary sewer line easement, and that Tract A has been set aside for environmental contamination, and therefore all staff as well as supporting agencies have established that this is in excess of need.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or findings? Hearing none, are there any objections to the motion? Seeing and hearing none, the motion passes. May I have a motion for approval of the plat for 24 months subject to conditions? Mr. Porter?
Yes, I move in the case of S12408 for the approval of the plat for 24 months subject to the conditions 1 and 3. That would be 1A, 1B, and 1C, and 3, which is just drafting changes, eliminating 2.
Thank you. And Mr. Cross seconds. And Mr. Porter, would you speak to your motion, please?
Yes, the approval requirements, including the following notes, are following the staff recommendation and also municipal requirement and for Title 21, especially specifically in terms of drainage, and which has been stated as a major concern of the surrounding neighbors. And the owner has stated that they are going to lengths to make certain that the drainage is accommodated in a reasonable fashion.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or findings?
Yes, I will be moving to approve the motion for the approval of 24 months, subject to the following conditions. I want to make sure it's important that the public testimony came down to 3 critical items. 1 was concern for drainage. 2 was the concern for a landscaping buffer and trees, and 3 was having to deal with foot traffic. The petitioner's project resolves, looks like it's dealing with all 3 of these in a positive manner. First off, dealing with drainage, it's important to note that the approval of the plat is subject to that the property owners and its utilities shall not obstruct, impede, or alter drainage facilities. Anything that they do will be required to improve the drainage situation. It sounds to me as if it's got a high water table. Many of the homes have sump pumps. And by regrading the soils as it sits in that easement, the addition of pavement and a westerly grade, it should significantly improve the drainage situation on your properties, as well as it being maintained to remove the snow load and making sure that is being disposed of. So the plot and the plan is here to improve drainage. Regarding the trees, it's important to note here that there are 2 10-foot easements as well as an additional 15-foot landscaping buffer between the development and the properties. There will be a temporary need in order to remove some trees so that they can improve the drainage, because we can't help but alter and move landscaping if we're going to improve the grade so that we don't continue to have water intrusion. But then the petitioner has stated that they will then replace those trees and and create a nice buffer with a possible 2-fence option. The third is the foot traffic. As you've stated, the homeless situation, which is prevalent around Anchorage everywhere, but as you're experiencing through the back of your property, that as they build and they secure their facilities, the installation of gates and deterring that foot traffic so that you don't have, for lack of a better term, unwanted populace behind your homes should be eliminated with a more secure facility. So regarding the public testimony as to what they deem to be important, I will move to approve it. It seems to me as though the petitioner's plan here addresses all 3 of your items. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other discussion or findings? I would like to just point out, as far as your concern about the landscape buffer and the fence, the petitioners addressed that they're going to address that, but also in Title 21 code for the business zoning, this is a zone requirement, so they don't really have a choice. I mean, it's nice that they're offering this, but this is a must-have. So thank you for asking for it, but you're going to get it. Is there any objection to this motion? Hearing and seeing none, the motion passes. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Platting Board takes. Appeal of this decision or any of the conditions is governed by AMC 21.11.304. The decision of the board at the scheduled public hearing shall become final 7 calendar days after the date the decision is made on the record, unless a written request is submitted to the Planning Division prior to the expiration of the 7th day to prepare a written decision based upon the record made at the hearing, and the request is accompanied by a written notice of intent to appeal. Adoption of the written decision by the Planning Board becomes the final appealable decision. Within 20 days of the final appealable decision, an interested party must file with the municipal clerk either a written motion alleging new evidence or changed circumstances per AMC 21.11.503, or and appeal of the board's final appealable decision per AMC 21.30. Next item on our agenda are appearance requests. Do we have any appearance requests tonight? Do we have any persons to be heard tonight? No. We have no reports. Do we have any board member comments tonight? May I have a motion for adjournment? Mr. Cross, Ms. Ritz seconds. The meeting is adjourned.